In addition to everyone who's building things here over the course of a couple of days, we asked Matt if he'd build us something in an hour, which that was a nice surprise, right?
Let's just say it was a surprise.
It was a surprise. Okay, the nice part we'll wait and see. So we're going to give that a try now. We'll see how we get on. We've got an hour to see, what the process is, what you dig through. We'll work through it together. And hopefully it'll show up your typing and talking skills all at the same time.
An hour of me Googling Stack Overflow and making typos, pretty much. I did cheat a little and spent some time today prototyping what I'm going to be working on, just so I'm not going to stumbling around completely blind. But let's see how it goes, and if I still remember how to write code in between all the CEOing.
Okay. Should we move? So first of all, can we show Matt's screen? Are we showing Matt's screen at the moment?
Yeah.
We're good. Okay, great. So now there's no escape now, Matt. Now there's no secrets. Secrets left.
So if you're watching my screen, you'll see that I'm viewing this little boilerplate that we made at Netlify called Create React App Lambda. And basically, I think by now pretty much the far majority of people watching this stream will probably know Create React App as being sort of the really common starting point for new React applications. And this just gives me, we'll see if I even get so far, but this gives me the ability to write some server-side code during this stream.
Okay.
And I think it's just one of these things that I also talked about earlier in the live stream. How great it is to just start getting a basic flow set up before we actually start building our app that supports what we're going to build, right? Right. So in terms of what we're going to build,
yes, that would be good to.
It's the next thing I've given some thought to, right? What do we call it? Got any good name suggestions for Sudoku challenge?
Sudoku challenge.
Yeah. That's not Sudoku challenge. Come on.
Have that.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
it's gotta be something more fun.
Sudoku stack.
Sudoku stack.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's gonna be in the name of the new.
Live. I like it.
The new repo. So basically, what this deploy button does is that it sets up a new repo and does an initial deploy of Create React App and make sure I just have like a complete continuous deployment process to a globally distributed network and AWS Lambda integration and all of that stuff. And basically what I thought would be really fun to do for sort of an hour-long challenge is that back about 10 years ago, when I had moved to Spain from Denmark, and I was still at the time working as a musical journalist in Denmark, and was starting to figure out that I was going to stay in Spain, and that there wasn't a lot of work working as a writer covering music in Danish, especially not when it was like contemporary classical music and weird jazz.
In Danish in Spain.
Yeah.
Niche.
Yeah.
I like it.
It was a surprise at the time, but it turned out that there just wasn't that high demand. Something's wrong with the world, but that's how it was.
Right.
Okay, but back then, one of the things I just started building was this Sudoku challenge. So I built this challenge where you could like go to a web page, you could get a Sudoku, you could solve it on time, and then you could send a mail to a friend with the same Sudoku and challenge that person to like see if you can beat my time. Right?
Got you.
And back then that was like a pretty big project actually. It was back in the early days of Rails, right? And everything was everything was server side and so on.
Right.
Deploying a Rails app wasn't easy, right? And just the whole story around like the browser and JavaScript was really different 10 years ago, right? So even just the concept of like, okay, how am I gonna make an interactive UI for Sudokus in a browser? It was much more page-based of like having all these forms and sending it to a Rails controller and rendering a response and so on. And of course, all the Sudoku generation, I had to come up with a way to do this. I found this old repository I made back then, like 10 years ago, right?
This is the one. This is the original.
So this is a version of it that I wrote in Ruby. So one of the things that was a constraint back then was that this had to run on my server during the rep request, and servers were smaller back then, and Ruby is kind of hard, and deployments were really hard.
Yeah.
So I actually also rewrote this in C as a Ruby extension, just to get the performance for generating these Rubies. So this is like a DLX-based solver. It's like based on an old computer science paper by Donald Knuth around an algorithm called dancing links. That I really like. If someone wants like some mind-bending fun, go and read that paper and do the logic and see why it's called dancing links and visualize it. And it's a lot of fun. But like again, one of these things that's changed now, right, from back when I had to do it that way, is that today we can maybe just go on npm and then we do like Sudoku. And we get like, oh, there's like npm js/Sudoku.
That's a relief, because I was worried that you're going to spend the next hour re-implementing the libraries that you had.
That would have been a hindrance from getting anywhere now, right? But now I can just like npm Sudoku make button,
slurp
right?
it in and
like,
use it.
Yeah,
nice.
It's a little like cheating, but that's
those are the resources we have now.
That's what it's all about now, right? Like.
So what have you been? So while you were talking, you've done a couple of things. Right? So what did you do?
So basically, I set up my local development environment by like what Netlify did for me was setting up like this new website. It has its own URL. If
that's
anybody
already deployed, right?
If anyone is fast enough to capture this URL from the Lime stream, you can go there and follow along.
It's a test.
It's a test, yeah. And it also created a new repository. So again, if anyone goes to Biilmann, the other test is spelling my name right, and then go to Sudoku Stack, you can actually find the source code I'm working on.
So
here.
this is what
was
created when you cloned.
Yeah, this is what was cloned, and then I just downloaded it and ran yarn to install all of the internet locally, right? And yarn is it's nicer than npm in that it actually, since I practiced this a little before, it realized that and didn't download everything. It seems so. I was really surprised how fast it was.
Nice. So by this stage then, you've already got your continuous integration set up. You've got a site configured on Netlify that's watching a repository, and you've also clone that repository locally, so you've got a local environment and a CI environment. Okay.
Everything, right? And I can here in the local repository, I just did a yarn at Sudoku, right? Like, so that was what took me like back 10 years ago. then I spent like a month implementing Donald Knuth's dancing links and everything and transpiling it to C, and now I just type yarn at Sudoku.
Do you realize that this was around 10 years ago, though, Matt? Do you not realize this? You could have used
really
to see you the day after you've done it, and I've just done this.
Yeah, really, it's funny because I thought yarn was like a little more recent. And then I just ran yarn start, right? And that's again one of these awesome things that now, as soon as this little server spins up and gets done building the initial build, then I just have this awesome local environment, and we can start hacking away, right? So this demo obviously has a little cruft that we don't really need. I don't need some big React logo to show Sudoku challenges. I don't need a Lambda demo. Let's get rid of this logo. Let's have an H1 because I like having an H1 on a page.
Bravo. You're getting cheerleading from the plain old semantic HTML crowd.
Sudoku stack, here we go. Bang.
Cool, so we're
First
off and
step,
running.
we have a name. I think we'll need the header to be a little smaller. It has like some big viewport. We'll just let's just get rid of that and do like a padding of
I'm kind of interested to see that very quickly you're starting to work on the design of this as well. It's all happening at the same time.
I'm very much like instant gratification, right? How can we best get something quickly that has something,
yes,
right? Like
totally.
And especially when I'm tying to an hour project here, you'll also see me. There's a bunch of stuff I would do differently from a larger project. If I had more time, I would really think about like, hey, maybe I should use TypeScript. I should totally look into how hooks works to do things that way.
Yes.
There's a bunch of stuff, right? But when you are at like a hackathon and you want to actually build something, then I just find it's really good to just rely on stuff you've done before.
Yeah, build with what you know.
Build with what you know.
Don't make everything a discovery.
And split your time a bit between the time that's like, hey, now I'm learning new tools and experiencing, and now I'm actually trying to get something
forward,
working, right?
Yeah.
And get it out there, right?
That's good advice.
Right now I'm very much in get something working mode, right?
Right.
So the first thing I'll need to get anything working is to figure out how the hell does this thing work, right?
Okay.
And it apparently has a make puzzle, right? But we need to sort of figure out what does that make puzzle version do. One of the things that I love in coding is the REPL idea, right? Like the run eval print loop that Lisp sort of brought forth, and the browser today just comes with an awesome one of those. So my first really ugly, dirty hack to get a little REPL for it will be to import this generator from Sudoku. And then instead of using it for anything, I'll just like this is not it. Don't try this at home. I'll just expose it on the window object, right? And then we reload here, and now we have the generator, and I can
crafty.
see. Okay, let's make a puzzle. Here we go.
Oh,
now I can make
you're
puzzles,
up and running,
right? So this was one thing that when I was prototyping earlier, it took me a while to figure this out and not be really confused by it. So just to recap, like a Sudoku is always like, it's this grid, like typically 9 by 9, right? And then each row has to have all the numbers 1 to 9.
Yes.
Each column has to have all the numbers 1 to 9. And each square that's 9 by 9 has to have all the numbers 9 to 9, right? And if we look, and again, this took me a while before I noticed, right? But if we look at what this specific NPM module outputs, there's all these zeros in here, right?
Yeah, right.
So for some reason, the author of this generator decided it was nice to have the number 0 to 8 instead of 1 to 9. Interesting choice, but now that I know it, I won't spend a lot of time being very perplexed on a couple of things while doing this.
That's a good thing to discover beforehand.
That is a good thing to discover beforehand, right? But now the next time the next thing, like one of the things that I learned a lot from as a developer was working with Haskell for a while. And Haskell has this very strong type system, and it's all about transformations of types, right? And in the beginning, I was fighting a lot with that. Today, I really like that. Obviously, I didn't pick TypeScript and anything, so I'm not going to do anything that really deals with types.
Sure.
But I am going to start from thinking, okay, how do I want data to flow down through this application, right? So I know that I'll end up with like an app that has some kind of Sudoku board, and that board has some rows, and those rows has some fields in them that has a number that's either a read-only number that came from the puzzle, or a non-read-only number that came from the user, right? So I want to think off the bat, okay, how can I take this and generate something that comes with a data structure that that I can work really well with, and how can I write like JavaScript that actually is JavaScript? It's another question, right? So I'll start by just generating the raw Sudoku, and I've just seen in my little REPL that make puzzle seems to do that job, right? So all that gives me is just like this long array with no structure whatsoever, right? Like that's not really what I want to work with. I want to work with to just like, now that I don't have added anything with a type system, I can at least like document a little.
I like the attention to detail that's going on here. I'm assuming that's because you're scared of tripping yourself up later as much as anything else.
Yeah, and it's because I think that this is so fundamental, like just thinking about the right data structures really helps. So what I'm thinking is that I'll have an array of rows, and if this was Haskell, this would like all be types instead of just like weird objects, right? Like if it was TypeScript, I might even turn it into classes, right? So each of these, so probably I'll have like actually a base object that has some rows, and each of those rows will be an object that has some columns, I guess, and then each of those columns, this was one thing I quickly found out, I want to have it like the row ID and the column ID, so we know what we're working on. I wanted to have the actual value, whatever it is, right? And then I wanted, and then I want like a read-only property. That tells us like, is this a pre-filled value that that can't be changed, or is it something that can be changed, right? So this is probably an okay start for like the data structure. It gives me for each, I would actually add one thing. I would add also here an index that just gives me a key, because I know later on when I'm building out this UI tree, which is really the way you should think about React, right? Like you have like a root element, and then you have data just flowing down through a tree of components, right? I just know that I'm gonna want keys for each row that stays the same for efficiency and so on, right?
Yeah.
So I know this is kind of like the initial data structure I want to come up with. And then I could do, like normally I would do all kinds of fancy functional maps and so on, but let's do something really basic just to get it.
Exactly.
And say, okay, so we want some result that has some rows. That's an array here, right?
Yeah.
And then for let's just do a completely 0 to 9, right? Oh, there's a lot of typos. One thing that can be a little confusing with ES6 is that const doesn't really mean that something is frozen. It just means that it means that I can't reassign this variable, but I can still mutate the object.
I didn't know that. Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I might choose to use the let, but I think my linter settings right now will complain. So.
Right, okay, fair enough.
So we have this 9 times 9 grid, right, that we're just going to use the very basic ing variables to think, right?
Hello, old friends.
And then this column is going to be something that has like the row is the I, the column is the j, right? And then the value will be, actually I think I'll extract the value out here because to make it a little clear, will be the raw one. And then if I'm right, it will be like I times 9 to sort of navigate in the array, right? Like doom.
Okay, yes.
9 plus j, right? If I'm right, does that seem right to you?
I think so.
I think so, right?
I
like
think so.
If we say, if we have this, if we take our little rebel, right? It's easy to play around, right? So if we have raw, and we say, okay, we have the first column and the first one, right? Like 0 times 9 plus 0, right? Like that will give us the first value. Right? Then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if we had like still the first row and 9 off, that didn't give us the right one. Maybe I counted wrong.
1, 2.
0. Okay, because it's actually 1 of.
There we go.
Okay, but we actually, because we're going from 0 to 8, right? So that's good, right? And then if we have the second element on the next row, that would be something like this. Whoops. No, something like this, and that would be 4. Okay, so it seems to add
so
up.
you can address that.
I'll say this looks good. And then read only. Right now, it's actually as simple as if the value is not null exactly, then it's a pre-filled field. So
okay, because we're setting this at the moment. Right, got you. Yeah.
So and then at the end of this, to make it useful, we should probably return something. Oops, that's a funky autocomplete going on. Okay, we have a problem still. We should actually do something with this column. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay, it complains that we're not actually using this, which makes sense because we're not using it. So let's start by just this. I know there's like a more fancy newer syntax for this now, but again, hackathon. Do what
use
do what you're familiar with.
Confidence first.
And don't worry. So let's say we set the state and we just set the Sudoku to generate a Sudoku, and now we have some state. Okay. next job, let's actually display something.
Yeah, that would be lovely. It's always a nice moment when something appears on the screen,
yes.
no matter what else has happened first.
So let's see, let's create a Sudoku board.
Yes.
I'll do that by, let's create a component folder and add a Sudoku board in there. Let me just get this boilerplate in there. Okay, and then let's start with a really, with the most basic proof of concept. That would be something like
cool. Yeah.
This should at least show us if we are doing anything. We will need to actually go and import our component.
Great. Oh,
okay,
hello.
We have a bunch of stuff.
Finished.
Awesome.
Ship it? Ready?
Yeah, ship it.
Because the rest, I mean, everything else from this point is basically just UI.
Let's see. Let's start by then, like, now my really first goal, right? And I really like to work in small achievable goals that I can get towards, and that gives me something, right? So my first goal should just be to display like an empty Sudoku on the screen. That'll make me
like
happy
grid.
for a start. Yeah. So we know. This will save us some typing to just extract the Sudoku and say, okay, we have Sudoku, and then we'll want to hear Sudoku rows map. So we'll just map over each of these rows, and for each row we'll make a div. We'll give it like a class name. Row sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Cool. And then for each of these rows, we sort of have a set of columns. Oops, we should also react will complain. See, now it's really nice that I had this index, right? Because now we can actually set a key, so it becomes a bit more efficient and it behave well. And then here, I think what we actually want here is sort of like a field, right? That allows us to do input and so on. So I'll make a new component for that and call it a field. I don't know, it's a little weird, the column field, but I'm not.
No, I think we can live with that, I think.
So I will do this, and I'll use the column actually. Like maybe I'll actually call this a field here, even if because the column sort of consists of fields, right?
Sure.
Because then we have like the row index and the column index, and that makes sense. We also have typo. Let's do this. Now we need to actually create a Sudoku field. Just as usual, go and copy paste a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we can think about how do we want to render a field. And it could be, like from start, it could be as easy as just an input, last name field. The value would just be the, let's do this again. Just be like this, right? And then we can even set, should it be read only? Actually in React, this VS Code is reminding me that's like for some reason uppercase.
That would trip me up every single time, I think.
Yeah. It did.
You do?
Totally did. Okay, so we still need to actually import this one.
So this is really nice that while you're doing this and you're working away, since you've got a build running which is like building your code, compiling it, and doing, like keeping everything refreshed. Yeah. You can actually, even without switching context, you can see things happening in the background.
I can see these things.
Things are going red or not.
Okay, so call this node? Okay, we renamed it to field. So yeah, I'm constantly getting this feedback, right? Which is also just, again, 10 years ago, this was not as smooth. And of course, calls is not a function. It's what I want to do is map over the calls. Okay,
okay. So
this is starting to look like something, right? Like, let's go back and just tweak the CSS a little bit.
Yeah. So at this point, you've got to. It's not even just a list of things. It is a grid.
It is a grid,
and
right?
the values are going in the right places.
Yes.
So that feels like a big step to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, if I was really good, I would like make it. Like, this is already starting.
Yes,
Let's give this header a little margin button, maybe. Okay, we're here. Maybe make those numbers a little larger.
Yeah.
And actually, like, let's do a font size.
That looks pretty good.
It's starting to look like something. And then let's take all the read-only ones. And let's say when it's the one you enter, we make them like a little light, and then when it's the read-only one, we make them really dark. Let's see. Okay, now we have something resembling
this
a
like
Sudoku board at least, right?
Yeah.
Like so that's a start. Ideally, I mean, like that's sort of, we can tweak that later, right? Like ideally, we also wanted to put some
9x9 grid
9x9 grid as well, right?
But again, this, I mean, for something for a task like this, where the bigger part of this is the logic and the functionality. It feels like that's the place to go first, and then we can
precisely,
get
right?
other things done
so this is really typical. First, like, okay, now I'll say, okay, I have something now, right? Like, and note some of the things I did. For example, like up here, right? Like, it's pretty obvious that this is not going to be the right place where this function should live, right? That's something when I'm like starting out, getting something working, getting out. I often really like just putting something in the same file as I'm in.
Right, so everything is in one place logically, so you can see it all in one place.
And because that's like the most trivial refactoring in the world ever, is to like put that into its own little component and pull it in, right? But right when I'm just playing around, it can just be easier, right? So
this kind of helps it become like a bit of a stream of consciousness. It's the way you're thinking, and you're doing it all in one place before you go and optimize things, tidy things up, and get them refactored. Cool. So you're actually going to push this at this moment.
Yep.
And this is something I've been walking around the teams during the day and seeing how they've been working. Since there are many people working together, it was really nice to see that people have fairly quickly reached the point that they're sharing code together in a repo, and they're sharing progress. So as different people are making commits, they're pushing them up to the project. It's rebuilding in exactly the same way that you're doing now, and people can share the progress. They can see how they're getting on, and it's living and breathing right from the outset. So it's really nice to be able to share these results and get them on a URL.
Yeah, I really agree, right? And just I mean, if I was a bit more of a team, I would even do this with pull requests and so on.
Sure.
Right? But,
now I think you're a team of one today. So
because you're not helping.
I mean, I get that a lot.
Okay, well, I just pushed this live, and anyone following should in a moment be able to actually go to Sudoku.
Oh, so you gave it a proper name.
I
didn't spot you do that. Okay,
and get a random Sudoku, right? So now we should maybe start figuring out, like, you should probably not be able to do things like this, and there should be some indication of where you're at and so on. So
each time you refresh that page, was that giving you a new Sudoku?
Because we're
being generated by
in the constructor of the app, right? We're just doing a generate Sudoku.
Right.
So now we actually already have a public-facing like Sudoku generator on the web, right? Like, that took me a lot longer 10 years ago.
Yes, no kidding. I mean, we've been like it's like half an hour we've been going, and we've come a long way.
Yeah, precisely, right? So let's think about, okay, now we start having data traveling down, right? So this was really what I talked about. Okay, make this data structure, think about how it's structured so we can easily have it propagate down a tree of component, right? And we have this very logical tree-like system. Now of course, when I do edits here and so on, right, we need to be able to have data travel back up, propagate up, right? So in here in our field, I think we'll already see the console is saying, hey, why are you setting a value when that's null, and why are you not having like any callbacks on your field? So first, to make this one a little happy, we'll do this, and we'll have values that are null, and then it's saying like, yeah, why don't you have an unchanged handler? Because you're setting a value, but you're not setting any handler. So we should, of course, set a handler.
Yeah, we should specify that,
So we want to do some unchange. Let's handle change, and let's do handle change. It's a little event handler here, and we should probably just say. So now we are starting to presume, okay, like since we're not going to be using any fancy state management or something, we're just going to be propagating state up and down in React. This is something that you could do with like hooks or redux and so on, but I like starting just really simple.
Right, yeah, for sure.
To understand. And then on change, what we want to do is that we want to take the current field, and then we want to update the value to be a new value. Now we probably want to clean up that value a little bit. So we want to say, okay, that value, we want to make sure we kind of pass this into an integer, even if it comes from like each of these fields. Those will be strings we type in, right? Like just inherently, right?
Absolutely.
But we want to keep, like again, we want to think as if we had a type system, right? And think, okay, the value should definitively not sometimes be a string and sometimes be an integer. So want to propagate up this value. Now, here we have like a problem, because what if the value is actually empty? So what if it's just an empty string? Then we just want to accept that, and otherwise we want to try to pass it into an int. This is like an okay start. Now we can propagate this up, so now we should pass down some handlers. So here we want to pass down. Here we actually probably just want to assume, because the good thing is that with the data structure we had, right, like if we go back and look at the little doc I put here, every single field has like the row and column and so on, right? So when we get like an updated value here, it's easy to, at the very top level, go in and find the right field to actually edit. So here we can just assume that we're getting passed down some event handler and say on change or something like that. Was that what I called it here?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, this props on change. So we'll just assume here that we also has like an on change handler passed in here. And then we should actually write an unchanged handler that we can pass in here, right? Like,
yeah, it's amazing to see how quickly it pays dividends. Just when you were like thinking about your data structure, you might kind of sketch that somewhere, or you might whiteboard it, but actually putting it right there in the code. This would also be kind of shared around if you were working with someone else in the team, and you can refer back to that thinking, and it's kind of, I mean, it's not just the process of writing that helps you internalize it, but also we've got that reference straight away, and you've been making use of it right away.
So now I have this whole object here, right? And I get this change, and it has a call and something, right? And I should do some kind of this set state with a new state, but this is where I quickly feel like, oh, that's a lot of state to handle if it's like all mutating, and like how do I make sure there's not some weird conditions going on? And then fortunately the other day, Sean Wang from our team wrote this great post on our blog about Immer, which is really a really cool library. So when it comes to another inspiration from sort of the Haskell world and so on, is this whole idea of immutable data structures, right? Like and of having data that doesn't change, you take like one value and then you take a new value.
Yes.
You don't change
it's a progression,
the
it's not
value of
mutation,
something.
right?
It's always like a transformation from one set of values to another, right? And Immer is a really cool, like they have some great illustrations here of these kind of transformations, but it's a really cool way of doing it based without really having to learn like immutable JS or some different kind of data structure or anything like that. So now I've added Immer, and then I'll import. Let me just see how they do it. Import produce from Immer, and then we'll do a little trick here. So we'll say, okay, produce from this. How do you do it? Let's see if this works. Basically, the way Immer does it is that it has this little produce that takes some initial state, and then it returns a function for updating that state, and inside that function you can pretend that the state is mutable, but everything ends up being immutable.
Nice.
Let me just first see if I'm breaking everything now. I can see that there's some I'm definitively missing. Let me just see. Yeah, no, undefined. I think actually there's like. Yep, here we go. Okay, so now we're back again. We have exactly the same state with the difference that Immer turns this into sort of a proxy object and so on. So now this state is immutable. I can't actually accidentally change it. And this means that here in my handle change, right, like on the Immer side, they'll have some good example of using, instead of this traditional way of saying, okay, now I need to like sort of unpack this whole object and put it together again. I can just call produce and take the state, modify it, and Immer will handle that whole. So really I can go in here and say get state and say produce, and then take a function that takes the current state, right? And then it just mutate. It in here it does actually do mutation, but it's not that painful. So we have these rows, and then from our element we have like the row ID, and that will have some columns, and then we'll have our col ID, and that will have a value that now we want to update. Boom. Let's see what happens.
Let's see.
Yep, I can do things, and I can't type. Now you can see I can't type any.
Right.
Like, for those that can't see it, I'm desperately trying to put letters into my Sudoku, right?
Yeah.
And I can't. I can only put numbers now, right? So now we already got this data flow working.
That's fantastic. That takes us such a long way in such a short time with the use of that technique.
And I can tell you, just like again, like building these kind of things 10 years ago in the browser was so hard, right? And now you have this really clear state abstraction. All the state is just flowing down a tree. It's immutable. We understand where it's coming from, and so on, right? Now, next thing I want to do is start checking if the Sudoku has been solved or not.
Yeah.
And this is one thing I realized when I was doing like playing around with this earlier, and that is that I'm not very good at solving Sudokus anymore.
Wait, hang on a second. It's one thing for us to spend an hour building a Sudoku puzzle, but if we actually have to solve a Sudoku in an hour,
that would be painful. Right? Like, let's not do that. So I'm gonna cheat a little, right?
Okay.
Like I'm gonna. I'm gonna add a little button with an unclick handler that says this solve Sudoku.
So this is the flip to the back of the Sudoku book button, so you can see the solution.
It's the hey, I forgot how to solve these anyway. And then we are gonna make a solve Sudoku handler here, and let's see. So one of the things we want, kind of anyway, I think. Already when we generate our structure up here is that actually we probably also want to keep the solution around.
Right, yeah.
Because like we need to actually be able to verify if you're doing the right wrong, right? And there's no reason to keep doing that. And we have this solve puzzle thing.
Yeah.
Again, I've exposed it to my little cheating REPL, right?
Yeah.
So we have this
I love that, so
make
crafty.
puzzle. So I can do this, right? And then we can say generator solve puzzle and see. Okay, this one
there's
just
the
gives us
sweet results.
the same one, but just with the results, right?
Yep.
So here we'll just say generator, and we'll immediately take solve puzzle and say, okay, solve this raw puzzle and store it as the solution. And then the other thing I would probably start doing is writing a little check Sudoku, check solution or something, and pass in that Sudoku structure. And then we need to sort of, now we have these and we kind of want to unwrap them again.
Yeah.
So we'll probably say, okay, we have something like a candidate for a solution, and then we take the Sudoku rows.
Yes.
We map over each row. And for each row, we take the columns. We map over each column. We take the value. And then in modern JavaScript, it's like nice enough that we can just say, okay, and then just make it a flat array.
Yep.
So now we are back and we have a structure that's the same. So now we can just start, again, really simple, just say, and then there's like a really easy first check, which is like if the candidate value is equal to an empty string,
Yes.
we
can escape out of that.
Or did we actually? Was it? No, it's actually null, right? Did we actually do that? We should probably, again, we should keep it really strongly typed. Yeah, so we should actually make this say null, because otherwise we sometimes have strings and sometimes null, and we really like. That's what I miss with Haskell, right? Like you can so easily mix up your types, but we want to keep it really strictly typed, right? So if it's null, then we know that we don't need to check anymore. It can't be solved yet, right? Or if the value here is not exactly equal to the Sudoku solution, then we should return false, right? Then there's no reason to go on and check more pieces, right? And if we make it all the way through and we haven't returned false, we should
say yes. Hooray.
So now we have a function for checking a solution, and this was the point where it's like, oh, so am I actually going to try to solve one of these just to figure out if that function works, right? Ideally, I would have set up like some test suite and something like this is what I'm missing now, right?
Yeah.
But,
that would be hour 2, maybe.
If I had more than an hour, if this was like a weekend project, then I would definitively set up some way of running tests here, right? Because like that would make it so easy to write a few tests of that function and see if it actually makes sense. Instead, we will write a function to magically solve Sudokus for us.
in a way, you're ruining Sudoku for everyone, aren't you?
Let's see, what are we gonna do to magically solve this? I guess we can run through. We'll run it somehow, like take each of these and find the right value for them.
Yeah.
So I guess we can actually just like do something similar and say this state Sudoku, and then just for each row, take the row, and then in the columns for each column, take that one, and then in here we'll just want to say if it's not actually we'll want to really make sure we do this with our Immer produce, right? Because we want to actually update the state to the solved Sudoku, right?
Yes,
so again,
we're
doing the same trick of saying, okay, let's take the state inside produce, and then inside here we can do all of these nice mutations. This is why you can't do it. Well, it's more pain. If it's not a read-only column, then set the column value to the state Sudoku solution, and then we have the same. At some point, we should probably make some helper method to that, right? But we have the same kind of lookup function where we say, okay, column row times 9 plus column. I think.
Is that right?
I think so. Well, there's an easy way to figure out if it's right. The first thing is that value is not defined on line 40 here. Okay, now we have this. Boom. That didn't work very well.
For each slot.
Because I'm trying to do it on the actual object. Let's see, where was it? 71. I want to do this for each row, right? So I'm just running over each row and trying to. Boom! That doesn't look quite right. So,
yeah, so
something is not right in the land of.
So are those zeros? So we've got. Is this a type thing?
That is actually a really good point. Yeah, because up here. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, there's actually both a point. So, did we ever correct? I'm not seeing any zeros here, so we did fix it in the make puzzle lowered. Okay, yeah, it's totally the zeros that are creating an issue, right? Notice how we're never seeing any zeros.
Yeah.
Again, this is the gotcha of untyped languages, right? We're here saying if and zero matches that,
falsy,
right? Yeah. So the first thing we want to do is probably to
Right.
Let's see if we start getting some 9s. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Oh, also, that makes me feel more at ease seeing Sudoku with the right numbers.
Yeah. I really don't.
And
know
we can
why
navigate around the kind of type issue.
The solution will always have one, so that's just to say like this, right?
Oops.
What is it complaining about here? It cannot read protein map of null. Just picking this apart in some smaller steps.
Yeah. Hello, old friend.
Our old friend console log.
Okay. It did log something out earlier up the page. I didn't spot what it was. There we go. It is null. It's up there somewhere. Yeah.
It is null. So. Yeah. Okay. That actually, yeah. we can't do this because now because the solve puzzle expect the format or the raw format. Where they are not. So that's like a little annoyance here.
Oh, that's a shame. That felt like it was going to be such a tidy solution.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame, but that does mean that we might want to. Yeah. That's awfully annoying. Okay, I'm gonna do a quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, now we have this, and still something is a bit off.
But we still, because we are seeing 9s now as well, so.
We are seeing 9s now, right? Like now it's probably just this mapping of rows and columns that are somehow off, right? When we say, okay, let's solve this.
Yeah.
Why is it slightly off here? Let's see. Again, this is where a test suite would make life
absolutely
a lot easier, even if. So this is the state before, and the solution is like. So the solution here, 371,362.
Ooh,
and
yeah,
then and then it's something related to not skipping these read only or something like that. Let's try to just get rid of that. Just see.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we have the solve it magically button. Okay, so that was the start. Now we know we can solve these Sudokus very fast.
Yeah.
And now we can start saying, okay, whenever we handle this change, we should also have some function to.
You're gonna check to see if it's solved on when
something like that, right? Where I'm just gonna say, okay, first of all, I'm probably gonna introduce like a solved.
Yeah.
We could even we could introduce some more. We could say like, okay, up here when we create the Sudoku, maybe we want to say, okay, we have these rows, we have this solution, we have this start time, which is a new date because we started it now.
Oh, we're going to be racing against the clock, are we, for this? So many ways.
Precisely. Okay, so we have a start time and a solve time, right? And then here, okay, this is all the same then. And then here we can say, okay, if first of all we can start by checking. Because if we've already solved it, we should just never be worrying about that. But if it's solved and if we don't have a solved time, we can say, okay, is that what we called it up here? Check solution, and we can pass in. I'm actually realizing that we'll probably want this to be a part of our state change here. And that means we don't really want it to be a handler because we'll get some weird race conditions.
Right, okay.
We want to just pass in a state that we can check against. Okay, so we're gonna see. Okay, is it gonna be solved? Let's start by saying up here. Let's just start by inlining it. before we extract it to its own method.
Yeah,
That'll
okay.
be easier.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, so we'll clean it up later. Okay, so now in theory we should start setting a solve time if the Sudoku has been solved. Now
So we need to.
we're passing
render that
this
somewhere else, I
in,
guess.
so maybe in here in our board we can go in and say
Oh,
oops, that didn't quite work. Actually, yeah, that's a curious fact. Let's nope. Okay, let's see why we didn't solve it. Simplify.
was the logic in it actually detecting if it had been solved, or just the reporting of it? I couldn't quite see.
So basically here we should be checking if it had been solved. And I mean, that is the function. We haven't quite checked if it works
Right,
yet.
yeah.
So we, again, this
Yeah,
is
right.
where,
Let's do something quick and dirty just to
Yeah.
just to see if that's actually happening. Cool.
it's not happening.
Right, right. Is our handler running? Is our change handler even firing?
That I do think it is, yeah, but let's double check.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it will be. It's probably people screaming at the live stream, live feed.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they can all see it.
Exactly,
They can all see it.
exactly what it is messing up. So it's obviously the condition here. Oh, they're in the power. That says that the solve time. So up here, yeah, this is because we are setting the solve time and we should keep it in. So there'll be this weird thing where I need to go and see.
Yep. That's.
And now we detect, okay, you solved the Sudoku.
Superb.
Okay,
That's
so
great.
that's great. Then while we're not solving it, we'll obviously want to show some kind of timer, right?
Right.
So let's make a little timer as a new component. And let's figure out how a timer should behave.
It's going to start to feel pretty complete in terms of the functionality at that point. I think we're going to be
Yeah.
populating it. We'll be able to
Yep.
check to see if it's solved. We'll
Yep.
have change handlers to watch for the entry, even though we're cheating to populate it. But we're still, nonetheless, that's just saving us that effort. We'll be able to report if it's solved or not, and if this timer is updating as well. Sounds like that's going to be good to push.
If we just push a start time. So typically in a timer, it's like it's useful to have some state that has maybe the seconds elapsed starting at 0, and let's see, for getting the new fancier lifecycle methods, but we'll just do this. When it mounts, we'll say set, just as well keep some reference to it and say, just good old JavaScript setting an interval.
Here we go.
Saying, using set state to just say elapsed is now. Let's see how we do it. I'm expecting to pass in a start time that's a date. So we'll want to say, we'll want to take the time right now and subtract the time from date, and then this is going to be milliseconds, so we want to get it in seconds, and then we want to round down to not have some weird, like, because people don't tend to think in milliseconds.
I mean, I love the optimism that we're going to be reporting this in seconds. I was thinking like days or...
This is for serious Sudoku solvers, right? Like, this is this is for hardcore.
We don't need to report how many months.
The challenge, right? Okay, now we have this timer, so we should probably try to show it something.
Yeah.
We also ought to do, what's it called, component, well, unmount or something, and say, if I would delete this interval or something like that to make sure we don't keep that little event listener hanging. And then here in our board, we can import a timer. From.
Oops, I think you got a typo in that.
Oops.
I just fulfilled my value as the pair. that was it. That was my only contribution.
Okay, so we only want to show that when we don't have the final time, right? I think we called it like that. No, let's see if it works.
Yeah.
There we go.
Nice. We have our timer.
We have it at time, right?
Now will it?
And then here in the result, like, so maybe we should actually make that a little component in itself and say, okay, we have some little result component that will show what happened, right? Okay, and then we'll return a little thing here. But what I want to do here is something similar to the timer. I want to get that elapsed time, right? So in the result, we'll have the right now I'm just going to pass in that Sudoku because I don't really know. And then we'll want to have like elapsed be same calculation, right? Like we'll want to take the Sudoku solve time and take it in milliseconds, and then subtract the start time, and we'll want to do 1,000, and then
That's good.
And let's get it on the board.
Yeah. It's the excitement, isn't it? It's the excitement.
I'm a horrible and slow typer in general, honestly, right? Like it's and I'm super, like, some people really like are very, very conspicuous about how fast they can use their editors and so on, and I've never really been obsessing over
this. This is pretty lively. This is you've been moving quite quickly, I'd say. All right.
Okay, let's see. We'll actually have to cheat a little, right? Like and fill this in. And boom!
Yay.
We solved the Sudoku in 7 seconds.
Nice.
Nice. Okay, I think this warrants like cleaning up some console logs
I think,
and committing, right? I think.
This feels like functionally it does exactly what we would have set out to do.
Yeah. So now we have like the basic of it, right? Like I would probably extract this, so get rid of this. At some point, I would really get rid of this.
Maybe that button
little button.
That needs to be on like a little Konami code or something instead.
Yeah. That's like, I actually checked this an npm import Konami code.
I was about to ask exactly that. Of course there is.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Okay, and then then we could go on and do more things, so we could wrap it up, right? Like, so now we have this basic thing, right? Like what I did in my original challenge, which is actually not a big step up from this, but it's to say, okay, so let's say we've been working on this for a while, and I've solved this in 41 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, how about that I could send you this very same Sudoku
Yes.
and say like, hey, now you solve it
Right.
in these seconds, right?
Right. But at the moment, this is being generated like afresh with every
Every
view,
single
right? 'Cause it's
time,
happening
right?
in the client.
It is, right? So we can actually do something pretty quick to get around that, and just to give you a concept of how we can make it shareable, right?
Okay.
So this is really basic, and it's not especially secure or anything, but
Just for- to
it's
show
for,
the-
just
show
for a
the
Sudoku
concept.
challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not the end of the world if people cheat a little. So now I am gonna go and take this stuff here and put it into its own little library. It starts becoming a little messy to have it out there. Let's export this generate Sudoku. Let's export this check solution, and let's go here and then import generate Sudoku and check solution from Sudoku. Okay. Now we're back again, right? So one of the things we would want to,
Some things.
yeah, because I'm calling generator generate Sudoku, and we just want to call let me see. Okay, because up here I'm talking about a generator, and we haven't actually imported. We haven't actually imported the npm Sudoku.
Right.
Here we go. Okay, so now we're back again, right? And basically what we need to be able to send someone a challenge is some form of URL
Yeah.
with the Sudoku in it, right? So we can say, okay, let's have some share URL that we can generate for a Sudoku as a first step, right? And basically we'll want some data in that URL that's like, hey, let's get that, let's basically get what this one is generating, right? Like that
Yes.
make puzzle, right?
Yeah.
So let's get this raw one in there, right? Maybe we want to keep, now we've multiplied everything, so maybe we want to keep it around here just so we have it for generating the data here, right?
Yeah.
So we want that. We probably also want some more, right? We want who should we send the Sudoku to?
Yeah.
To be able to, well, not in the URL. Yeah, we did. So this is what I went through, right? When you actually send this mail, if we don't have a database or something, we want that URL to also have who do we send it from and who do we send it to. So once you're done, we can send it to the one that
Oh
created
wow.
it.
Okay.
So,
This
right?
is this
Like,
is going even further. Okay.
So this is just like going a little, but we probably we can start without these and just
I'm gonna
see,
say, even if
okay,
we just said we can make a
we can
reproducible
share it,
one
right?
on the basis of a URL, that would be perfect.
So what we'll have in the data, and let's take that data and say, okay, we'll have the raw Sudoku. Then we will want the start time, and we'll want the solve time, right? Because those two we'll want to verify, right? Then a really handy thing is that all the browsers now, again, this is something that they didn't used to have, right? But they have these two functions, and I always forget which one is which, A to B and B to A. So A to B, B to A, one, these are for base 64 encoding of strings.
These are built in?
It's a built into the browser.
I didn't know about
right?
this.
Like,
I've always been doing this the hard way.
Precisely,
Yeah.
I know, right? And it's so easy now, right? Like you just say, okay, JSON stringify data with B2A, and now you have like now we have like a query string with all of this
Yes.
just encoded in the query,
Yeah.
right? And then we can do something like returning the document location, href. We want to make sure we don't end up with a lot of query strings, so I'm just gonna do some replace. Like this is just really quick and dirty, right? But I'm just gonna say, whoops, what did Visual Code try to help me with there? Just gonna say, okay, if there is a query string, then remove it, and then
we'll
add like the Sudoku is.
That's super crafty. I like that.
Okay, now we have a share URL. In itself, that's not going to help us super much apart from like, what are we going to do with that?
Right. So we need to actually decode that.
Yeah.
Right?
So we have to get some kind of like up here. We'll want to check: are we getting this raw one from the generator? Or are we getting it from the share URL?
Yeah.
Or are we getting some? So we'll want something like from URL.
Yeah.
Something like this, right? And then we can write this function extract URL data, and we can say, okay, here we go. Let's first see. So this will give us the query param, and then if there is one of those, to be honest, we could even do. Let me check. Right now we don't have a query param. Again, I love these REPL levels.
I thought you put Sudoku was the query param, was it?
Yeah, I just mean like here we have an empty in the browser, so I just
want
to make sure. Okay, we have a string, so then we can just let's do a match and say like this is going to be really brute force.
That's fine.
Not ampersand plus. Okay, that's what we want. And if we get a match, then we know we have a URL. Here it'll return null if we don't have one, and if we have one here, we can say, okay, so the first value is this one. So now we just want to do the A to B, and we want to do the JSON pass on that value. Whoops. Again, this is where I wish I had started with a test framework, because it would make it so much easier. But oh well, sometimes you're lazy in the wrong place.
Yeah.
This is one thing. But okay, now we can both like share URL and we can extract this URL data. And up here we can say, okay, if we extract this, then we could say from URL. If we already have the URL, then just take the raw value from there, and otherwise do it here. And then this is exactly the same, this is the same, this is the same, and then we just want sort of the challenger start time. And challenger solve time, we call it. Okay, so now in theory, we should have all the information to know if there's a challenger and a URL and so on.
Yes.
So now we should just figure out, like, okay, if we actually solve this Sudoku, we should also update the Sudoku with a share URL, and we'll want to import what do we call the function? The share. We just called it share URL.
I think we did. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, share URL. Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. We take the share URL and generate it from our Sudoku. This was the right signature, right? Yep. Okay, so now in theory we have a URL that we can start sharing. So now it's just up to us in our result here to say, okay, you solved this in these seconds. And then say share a challenge, a friend or enemy. I don't know why we do that, but still.
I like it.
And it'll be a little silly because it'll just open in a new browser window.
That's fine. We can,
so then it would just be this Sudoku share URL now. Where
Sudoku not defined.
Yeah, let's see where it's state that Sudoku. Live refreshing is not okay, so let's see.
Let's
Let's totally cheat, right?
Yeah.
And then solve
Yeah,
it.
so
Get a share link, right? Like I can copy this link address and send it to you.
Yeah.
And then I can remove the magic button and
Yeah.
and here you go, right? Like let's see if this actually. So did this actually? No,
Oh, no,
it didn't pick the right one. So let's figure out why we didn't. Now we have like an easy test case here, right? Like we have this one over here. Well, it will change as soon as I update stuff. That's the only paper. That's the one paper library load sometimes. But let's see. Why don't we get this? We do have the Sudoku query string. I think I know. It's because we are doing this wrong. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think we are almost there now, right? Like I think we're actually gonna get this ready, right? So let's see. I'm gonna open this share link.
So we
so close.
Before we shut the doors. So if you need the same stuff pushed again before we push you out, go ahead and do that.
Oh, that adds some extra tension, doesn't it? Kicking us out of the building.
It's all.
Commit your changes. They're saying.
Well, I mean, I think we are pretty much there, right? Like
very,
I think this one. Okay, look at the match. Oops. No, this does seem like it should be right, no?
Let's see here.
Yeah. We're getting all the right stuff in.
So are we not using it when we're?
I mean, this actually seems right. We are showing the right one, and you will see that now in this one we are getting the same one every single time. So
is it our logic of seeing whether or not it was? No, that's being proven.
Let's see if I think we're just looking at the wrong one. Let's see if we're just like oops. Okay, so let's see 4257. No. So why are we getting the wrong one? So the problem then must be with not with that, but with the share URL.
Right.
It seems like, right? This is like, are we actually?
Are we certainly using it when we?
Yeah, it seems like we're setting the raw data here.
Yeah.
It's so close, right?
Can we look at the URL? What's the share link that we're actually sending?
Yeah, so this was the share link.
Yeah, that looks okay.
And I did have that, like, we do have this process here, right? Like, and you can see it's the right one. And we can see that we are setting the same every time.
Yeah.
So this was interesting.
Ooh.
Okay, something is wrong when we solve it. So the problem might actually be the magic solver function that messes something up.
It's going to end up being that the easiest way to test it is to manually solve the Sudoku. Just make sure we're doing it right.
No, okay.
No,
so the problem is totally it is actually our manual. I think everything is working except for this cheating function.
There's some justice in the world, really. When that's okay.
Yeah. I think so. I think so.
Okay. Well, I mean,
it
feels like we're within breathing distance.
We're within breathing distance.
Could well be that,
so I'll do this.
Okay.
Okay. And then I would actually say that without that,
without the cheat,
without the cheat, if I could solve this, the main issue being back would be to actually here in the result handle a case where we have one, right, like so. So here we would just have, and this we won't have time to test now. But we had this field called Challenger solve time, right? Mm-hmm. So in this result, we can go in and say if there is a Challenger solve time, then maybe put a little H3 here saying your opponent solved it in, and we'll want to do that little piece of math up here. Example. This seems like something that should be extracted into its own method because this is like the third time I'm doing that.
Well, that's the way it works with getting something together quickly, getting the steel thread there, getting it working, and then we can
then we can optimize, right? Like there's a bunch of things we could make smoother, right?
I think this is going to be our last piece of functionality.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, and then we can say your opponent solved it in.
Do we have a?
And we have a.
So a problem there.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
In theory, this is in theory this is a fully working Sudoku challenge that we can share.
Can you go back to the camera for a
sec? I'll commit this.
Yeah, in just a
moment.
Once we in just a sec. Nice. I love that commit message. Working solution.
Needs testing is my way. It's my way of saying, it's actually not working, but hey, I'm an optimist.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I think we're in good shape. I think, barring the fact that you have to actually go through and solve.
You have to actually solve the Sudoku, which is really annoying.
That given, but the thing is, I think
I should really get that magic button to work again.
No, I like it. I like it as is. I like the fact there's integrity to it. It means that people actually have to solve it. But this is kind of remarkable. So I mean, we went a little over the hour, but we were chatting away as we went and explaining things. But still, in an hour and 20 minutes, we've gone from 0 to having this kind of functionality in place. It's been deployed out onto the web. It's the kind of thing that now you can actually get a shared URL. It's finishing its build right now as we speak. It's 0 to functional in a little over an hour with chatting and and my help. So that's amazing. I think that's the perfect place to close it. It's kind of remarkable what can be achieved in that amount of time. I mean, it's not just the tools we're looking at here with like with Netlify getting out and deployed, but also the modern capabilities of the browsers. I mean, the things that I was seeing there that I wasn't aware of, and some of the like little utilities that I wish I'd known about. But that's great. So I've learned a bunch of things there. But also the tools that we have in things like React and the libraries that I have in NPM. What a wealth of resources are there in the hands of developers now. It's kind of incredible.
It is incredible, right? And this has been fun for me because I basically built in an hour. Miners like the one little lagging component is like setting up a little Lambda function and sending a mail back and forth and so on, right? But that's actually a pretty trivial amount of work. I did a little experiment before with Mailgun, right? And it's pretty trivial, right? And to see that this can just pretty easily be built in an hour and deployed globally and like shared and done with like this kind of workflow and anything, right? Like that's just such a huge difference from 10 years ago when I was building the same thing in Ruby on Rails and on DreamHost or something like that and trying to make it run at all.
pretty remarkable. Matt, thanks so much for spending the time to do that and braving the challenge. It's kind of remarkable, nail-biting stuff, but you made it look very easy.